Welcome to Just a Farm Wife with your host, Tara Emerson. Tara is a farm wife, photographer, mom, podcaster, author, public speaker, and much more. On this podcast, Tara takes listeners on a journey through all aspects of life and how we can create future growth. This podcast helps to empower women to believe they are more than the labeling that society hands them. And remember, you are never just in anything.
Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of Just a Farm Wife podcast. I'm your host, Tara Emerson. Today, we're going to take a look at a little bit of my story and the inspiration behind starting this podcast. So, to start out, a little bit about myself. I am a fifth-generation farmer as well as my husband. We have 4 kids. Our oldest is farming. He's married and he's farming with us. And I have 3 that are still in school. I have dabbled in a little bit of everything business-wise. I started out as a respiratory therapist before my husband and I even got married. We got married when I was 19, and just a short year after that, we were presented with the opportunity to buy some of our farm. So that kind of took us in a completely different direction than we thought we would go. And so I started out as a respiratory therapist. I graduated and was working as a respiratory therapist for about 10 years. And then we had more kids and more responsibility on the farm. And so I quit my full-time job and decided to work on the farm. My role was mostly just paperwork and raising children and running errands and delivering meals and see, there we go. I'm the recovering Just a Farm Wife. I'm minimizing all the things that I did during that period of time. Getting over the Just a Farm Wife is a journey, I would say. It definitely does not happen overnight, and you have to realize that everything you did at every point in the journey was important. At this point in the journey, it just looks more important because I'm dealing with more money and higher powered issues and greater responsibility. But the things I was doing back then were just as important. Anyways, my husband and I have been married for 22 years. And every year, things just keep getting better and better. And I couldn't be happier with that. So anyways, that's a little bit about my story. We're going to be going into a lot of things about my story into this podcast. So I don't want to take up the whole episode with all of those details. This episode specifically, I wanted to talk about how the TEDxCavalier inspired this podcast. First of all, I want to thank the committee that put on TEDxCavalier, especially Jeremy Ratliff. Jeremy, you have been a really positive influence in my life, even though we don't hang out together that often. I love how you see things in people that they don't necessarily see. And I think that's a really amazing skill. And I just want to thank the team for seeing something in me that I didn't see myself. When you're kind of going through all the yuck in life and the day-to-day, and sometimes you're just kind of in the suck, you can't always see the miracle of what you're doing. So I think it's really cool that it was reflected back to me that this team saw what I was doing. So I can't thank you enough. Jeremy, Chris Berry, Kyle Gagner, Rachel Morrison, Don Matt, Bill Crosby, and Gwen Zorn. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I want to talk about this event and how amazing it was for a small community. The topic of the TEDxCavalier was small towns, big ideas. And every single person on that committee of TEDxCavalier has played such an important role in creating big ideas within their small town. They each bring a unique perspective to their town, and they do it in such small ways that people don't even notice. But it just feels like each interaction they make places a light, and then that light extends onto the next person, and it just keeps building, and you keep building momentum, and they are just building this huge momentum for their towns. And It is really incredible to watch, and I feel so honored to be a part of that. I'm just kind of getting out of the being stuck in the suck of life right now. Our family farm is heading into litigation for some things, and that's a whole different podcast. But in order to get to this point, there were so many things that needed to heal in my life, and so many patterns of abuse and taking on others' burdens that needed to be fixed in my life before I could even see myself in a position like this, or even see myself in a role of authority on anything, really. And so when they asked me to speak, it, it felt like a really scary opportunity. It felt like a good opportunity, and then it felt incredibly scary. And I was incredibly scared even when I was up on that stage in the beautiful Cavalier Theater. It's such a cool and iconic spot. And I did feel really scared, and I felt really nervous because that was my first time ever public speaking. So that's why I kept looking at this book of speakers, and every single one of them are just such vibrant and wonderful and amazing people. And I just couldn't believe I was on that list. I couldn't believe that I was chosen to be speaking in the same room as all of you. And so, yes, I am publicly showing my insecurities. I feel like if we all did this, maybe we would have a little bit more compassion for the people around us. But anyways, I did it scared. I did it incredibly scared, and everybody was so incredibly kind and encouraging. I just want to thank them so much for all that they did. Being just a farm wife was something that I really struggled with for a long time. It kind of came to me organically that that's what I wanted to talk about, because I feel like that is an epidemic, if you will, of what happens in some rural communities. We diminish what women do, and we diminish the role that they play. I guess I see it a lot in the farming and agriculture atmosphere, but I just want women and young girls to know that you can stand up for who you are, and you're allowed to be big. You're allowed to do one thing if that's all you want to do. It doesn't determine your value. It doesn't determine your worth. You determine your value, and you determine your worth. I feel like all of the speakers at TEDxCavalier really combined everything together. They all played a different role in the same thing. It's all aspects of being human, and all humans are just asking to be seen. So I think that Rebecca Undum was really the perfect end speaker, because she kind of put all of that into words together at the end. So I can go through here and let's connect the dots to see how all of these speakers really just rolled humanity into one. So Eva Robinson, she was wonderful. Kind of the gist of her speech was taking your weaknesses and using them as strengths, and knowing that your weaknesses don't define you, they make you who you are. And I feel like that was a great place to start. And then Peter talked about his search for community. And so instead of searching, he started creating. And when we come to that point of creation in our lives, that's a different level of humanity, right? And Jim, he talked about how we're going to farm and how we need to pivot and establish more vibrance in our small town communities. And all of these things tie together for me. I don't know about you guys, so please leave a comment if you disagree. But especially in a small town community, we can feel alone, and turning our weaknesses into strength. I mean, that affects our children, and then that affects who we are and how we go about our day-to-day life. Chelsea Wald talked about why branding is important, and branding is important not only in your business life, but it's also important in your community life. Cavalier has done a really nice job of branding their community as up and coming. And, maybe they didn't even intentionally do it, but I know they did come up with their own slogan. So that's intention. That's how you get things done. This is all about bringing vibrancy into your community. Jenny Prim talked about her obstacles in her personal life and how she decided to change them and also use what was meant to destroy her to use it to empower her. And I feel like in small communities, a lot of things like that happen to us. Since it is a small community, we don't feel like we necessarily have the support that we need. We're lost in the small townness of what she talked about, minimizing other people's experience because we don't want to talk about the hard things. Frank White, he's a great speaker. And one of the things that he talks about is noticing potential in people that they don't see in themselves. Talking with him was really amazing for me, and listening to his speech. And it's really important that we in small towns show each other and reflect back at each other the potential that they have in themselves that they don't see, because that's going to keep building your community, and it's going to build vibrance that just can't happen if you don't see it. Carrie Helgo, one of my favorite people, talked about food, hunger in the heartland. And she was totally right. Food in North Dakota and food probably all over the Midwest. And food, I travel a lot, or I like to travel a lot, but food really connects everyone. And how are you going to connect people in small towns? And how are you going to keep building people? Well, a lot of times we build each other through small towns and through meals and through good conversation. I feel like that happens everywhere. That happens at tax write-offable dinners, right? In big cities, it happens all the time. Well, why can't we do that in a small town? I see a lot of times that we are, and there's always ways that we can do it better. So I think that's awesome. James, I love James. He can make everything, even things that are boring, sound interesting. He did a great job of connecting people and housing, and how the simple fact of housing creates survival mode in people. And when we constantly keep people in survival mode, especially in small communities, they're not capable of expanding. If you're constantly in fear of where you're going to live, or if you're going to have a place to live, and even with food security that Carrie talked about, that creates scarcity and it puts people in survival mode. So that was a really awesome talk, and he had really great solutions about volunteering and working to change that. And Rebecca Undum talked about how everything is personal, and that kind of really ties in everybody's speech, and even Jordan, his musical performance. It was very personal. He shared with us music that he had written for some very important days in his life and blessed us with the gift of hearing them. Like Rebecca says, everything is personal, reaching out to one another to actually talk to them and showing them that they matter and that their story matters is what's going to get things accomplished. I really love all that. And if you have the chance to watch the entire day of speakers and the musical performance, I would highly recommend it, especially if you live in a small town anywhere. All of these speakers, their messages can be combined in order to create momentum in your small town. So thank you, TEDxCavalier. I can't wait for the next podcast. Take care. Bye. Thank you for listening to today's episode. And remember, you are never just an anything.